I came home early from work to surprise my husband, only to hear my sister-in-law laughing. She still thinks he loves her. I stood frozen in the hallway as he said, "She's just convenient. A placeholder." The door opened and they both went silent. I packed a bag and left without a word. But 4 days later, when they tried to access our joint account, they realized something that sent them into panic. I met Dean in the summer of 2014. I had just turned 32, and he was 34. We met at a cookout a friend dragged me to in Raleigh. He wasn't the loudest guy in the room, but when he spoke, people listened. There was something steady about him, like you could lean on him and not worry about falling. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. Got married in a small ceremony in Asheville. Nothing fancy. Just close friends, a few family members, and a lot of laughter. I thought I had finally found my person. For the first few years, things were good. Not perfect, but solid. He worked as a logistics manager, I worked in HR. We bought a modest house in Charlotte and split the responsibilities down the middle, or so I thought. I did most of the housework, cooked most nights, and handled every bill, every insurance policy, every investment. Dean's only real contribution, besides his paycheck, was dealing with his family. His sister Alyssa came with a truckload of problems. She was 10 years younger, constantly broke, always calling for help. Car troubles, boyfriend drama, short on rent, emotional breakdowns, you name it, we got the call. I tolerated her. That's the best way I can put it. She was the type to smile sweet to your face and then roll her eyes the second you turned around. Dean insisted she'd had a hard life. Their mom passed when they were young, and he practically raised her. I respected that. So, I didn't say much when she started showing up more often. Sleeping on our couch for a few days, that turned into a week. Eating our food, using my things, treating our home like a crash pad. It got worse last year. She moved into an apartment 15 minutes away, but was at our house constantly. Sometimes when I came home from work, she was already there. Once, I found her in our bedroom watching TV. I confronted Dean about boundaries, but he brushed me off. "She's just comfortable here," he said. "You're overreacting." I started to feel like a guest in my own home. Things between me and Dean got colder. Less physical. Less connected. He stopped touching me. Conversations got shorter. I blamed work stress, life fatigue, even myself. I wondered if I wasn't enough anymore. I even bought lingerie to surprise him one weekend and found it stuffed in the back of his drawer, unopened, a month later. Still, I never imagined betrayal. Not like this. That Tuesday, I got off early. I wanted to do something nice. I swung by Amelie's downtown, Dean's favorite bakery, and bought that lemon tart he always loved. I remember driving home, smiling, thinking, maybe this will help us reset. Maybe we just need a moment of kindness. The moment I stepped inside, I knew something was off. It was too quiet. No TV, no music, just muffled voices coming from upstairs. I paused in the hallway. The bedroom door was slightly ajar. That's when I heard Alyssa laughing. She still thinks he loves her? Dean's voice followed.
Calm.
Pull. She's just convenient. A placeholder. I can't describe what that did to me. It was like someone turned off gravity. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. The bakery box slipped from my hands and landed on the floor unopened. The door creaked open. Alyssa stood there in one of Dean's old t-shirts. Dean behind her, shirtless. Both of them froze. No one said a word. I stared at them. Then I turned, walked into the kitchen, and grabbed my duffel from the closet. I packed the essentials, clothes, laptop, documents, and left. I didn't even shut the front door behind me. I drove straight to my sister Leah's apartment in Greensboro. She opened the door, and I just said, "I can't talk yet." She didn't push. She just pulled me into a hug and let me sit in silence. Over the next few days, I didn't respond to Dean's messages. He texted like nothing happened. "Where are you? Come home. Let's talk. No one meant for you to get hurt."
No epalegui. No confession.
Just damage control. What he didn't know was that while he was playing games with my heart, I had been playing a longer game with our finances. I never trusted him enough to put everything in his name. Over the years, I'd moved our savings, our Roth IRA, and even the house deed into a trust. Legally binding. Ironclad. I had used one of those just sign this real quick moments when we refinanced the house to shift control. He never read anything. Just signed. For days after I left, I got a fraud alert from the bank. Dean and Alyssa tried to access the trust account online. They failed. Then they tried to move funds from our joint account. That's when the panic started. Because the trust wasn't just locked, it required my approval for any movement. And the joint account? I'd already transferred most of it into a legal holding account pending separation. They were broke. Dean left me for his sister's manipulations, and I used that word intentionally. He didn't just cheat with any woman. He cheated with the one person I had always told him made me feel unsafe, unseen, disrespected. And now they were scrambling. But this was only the beginning. The morning after the fraud alert, Dean started calling nonstop. He used his number, his work number, even Alyssa's phone. I let them all go to voicemail. Most of the messages were just his voice, low and tense, like he was trying to stay calm, but barely holding it together. Call me back. You don't understand what's going on. We need to fix this. You're blowing this out of proportion. But I wasn't. And I knew it. 3 days later, Leah told me Dean had shown up at our old house with his dad. I still had the Ring Cam app active, so I pulled up the footage. There he was. Banging on the door, yelling my name like I owed him an explanation. Alyssa was in the background, arms folded, eyes darting toward the camera. Then his dad stepped in, saying something I couldn't hear clearly. Dean turned on him, yelling now, and that was the first time I saw it. He was unraveling. Later that night, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened, my stomach turned. It was Alyssa. You need to stop playing games. Dean is losing it. This isn't just about you anymore. You're hurting everyone. I replayed that part over and over. You're hurting everyone. As if I hadn't been the one betrayed. That same week, I called a lawyer. Not just for the divorce, but to protect everything. We filed a restraining order for the trust accounts and had a court order sent to freeze any unauthorized withdrawals. I also had my name pulled off any shared liabilities, cars, credit cards, even subscriptions. Then I went one step further. I contacted Dean's HR department anonymously through my lawyer. He had been using his corporate card to fund business meals that, upon inspection, didn't line up with his travel logs. I'd kept receipts over the years. Names. Times. And yes, some of those receipts matched nights Alyssa had stayed over when I was out of town. The company opened an internal audit. I didn't even have to push.
I just pointed them to the math.
Dean was put on immediate suspension pending investigation. I found out later he told people I was setting him up. That I was spiteful and crazy. But I never raised my voice. Never slashed tires or showed up at his job. I just used what he gave me. Leah, bless her, offered to let me stay as long as I needed. But I couldn't sit still. I got my own place. A small one-bedroom rental outside Winston-Salem. Clean, quiet mine. But the emotional wreckage took longer to sort through. I'd wake up some nights in a sweat, heart racing, thinking I heard voices in the hall. I started therapy. I didn't tell the full story right away. I just said, I was married. He broke me. I'm trying to figure out who I was before him. My therapist said something I still repeat to myself. It's not your fault they treated you like that. But it is your responsibility to heal from it. Meanwhile, Dean and Alyssa went public. Facebook posts. Couple selfies. Cringeworthy captions like, sometimes love finds you where you least expect it. One friend messaged me saying, they're saying you left because you didn't want kids and he did. I stared at that message for 5 minutes. We both knew that was his choice. But now, they were rewriting the narrative. Trying to turn me into the villain. They didn't realize I had documentation. Texts. Emails. Call logs. Bank records. Copies of everything. I had quietly built a wall of truth they couldn't tear down. About a month after Dean got suspended, I got a letter in the mail from a lawyer, his lawyer. It was a formal request for mediation over the trust account. They were claiming marital funds mismanagement and withholding access to community property. I laughed when I read it, not because it was funny, but because the man who called me a placeholder now wanted access to the money I had protected. I sent the letter straight to my attorney. She fired back a response with every account record, legal transfer form, and the signed documentation that proved Dean had given me full control, knowingly and voluntarily. But then things got darker. A week later, my landlord called me, said someone had been asking questions around the building, described a man and a woman, fit Dean and Alyssa perfectly, said they claimed to be worried family members. The landlord was spooked. I was too. I had never told Dean where I moved. I made sure my mail was redirected to Leah's. I even registered my utilities under an LLC I formed during the separation. I bought a small security system for the apartment, changed all my passwords. Every sound outside my window made me jump. Then came the bombshell. A friend from my old job, someone I hadn't spoken to in months, called me. She said, "Hey, just so you know, Alyssa's trying to get a job at your old company." I asked, "Why would she do that?" "She listed you as a reference." I sat there, stunned. The same woman who called me pathetic behind my back, who laughed about how I was just a placeholder, was now using my name to open doors. I called HR myself and asked them to flag her resume. I provided a short statement. This individual used my personal name and employment details without permission. I do not endorse her professionally. That was it.
She didn't get the job.
But that wasn't the real twist. A few days later, I got a DM on Instagram from a woman I didn't know. Her profile was private. The message read, "Hey, I don't know you, but I think we need to talk. I was seeing Dean last year. I had no idea he was married." My stomach dropped. Her name was Brooke. She worked in sales, met Dean at a trade conference in Nashville. Said he told her he was separated, that his wife was unstable and obsessed with money. They dated for 4 months. He flew out to see her 3 times. She only found out about me when she Googled him after something didn't add up. Brooke showed me texts, photos, flight stubs. One of the weekends he claimed to be at his dad's house with family issues. He was with her, at a hotel I had paid for under our joint account, booked through my name. Dean hadn't just betrayed me emotionally or physically. He used me, my money, my trust, my silence, to fund a double life. Maybe triple if Alyssa wasn't the only one on the side. That's when something inside me snapped into place. This wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. This was about justice. About truth. He had used me.
She had mocked me.
After Brooke and I spoke, I knew exactly what I had to do. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to fight. I was going to finish this in the only language Dean and Alyssa seemed to understand: consequences. First, I sent Brooke's messages, screenshots, and receipts to my lawyer. She forwarded them to Dean's lawyer. Not because we needed to, but because I wanted it on record that the man demanding access to my finances was also cheating with multiple women while married. It shot down their argument about shared marital funds being used unfairly. In fact, it supported my position that I had protected our money from his recklessness. Then I took a bigger step. I filed for divorce and requested everything I could. Full control of the house, which I already had through the trust. No alimony. And a clause that stripped him of any future access to my retirement funds. My lawyer was brutal, surgical, and completely within the law. Dean tried to fight it. His lawyer requested delays. But time wasn't on his side. His company fired him once the audit confirmed he'd misused expense reports. Not just with Alyssa, but with Brooke and another woman in Atlanta he apparently met during a conference. The report even mentioned the phrase, "pattern of unethical behavior." He lost his job, his severance, and his professional reputation. Alyssa? She tried to pivot. Posted some Instagram story about being a survivor of toxic family trauma. Claimed she was finally living her truth. But people weren't buying it. Word got around. Especially after Brooke shared a side-by-side of Alyssa and Dean's vacation selfie next to a receipt Brooke had from the same weekend, in a different city. Turns out, he had double-booked women like meetings. Then came the final piece. I published everything discreetly. I created a blog under a pseudonym.
Just the facts.
Names redacted. But dates, receipts, and stories intact. I didn't say Dean or Alyssa.
I didn't have to.
People connected the dots. People who knew us started whispering. A few reached out privately, saying they had noticed things, but didn't want to get involved back then. Now, they were cheering me on. The blog gained traction, got shared in some private Facebook groups, then Reddit. People commented things like, "She deserves a medal. Protect your assets, ladies. Good for her. That's how you fight back." Dean and Alyssa went quiet online. Deleted photos. Locked profiles. Then one day, Dean called me from a new number. I didn't answer. But the voicemail said everything. I lost everything. Are you happy now?
I didn't respond.
Because the truth was, I wasn't happy. Not really. But I was free. And that's more than I ever felt in that marriage. I moved forward. Quietly.
Cleanly.
I started hiking again. I adopted a dog. I found a new job in Asheville. Smaller company. Less money.
But peace.
Sometimes I still check that Ring cam footage from the day I left. Not to feel pain, but to remind myself what strength looks like. Because in the end, they thought I was weak. A placeholder. Convenient. But I was the one holding the pen. And I rewrote the ending myself.